asset, a tremendous resource, and really just an awesome dude. So I can't speak highly enough about him. I also can't speak more about the importance of collaboration and working together. Chaps and I work really, really closely as much as we possibly can on difficult cases, on planning, on just, intent when it comes to regiment. So I always ask them to come for the UMAPIT training to talk about spiritual health. Some people, it's really, they think it's strictly religious. And I like the way that he talks about it, not necessarily in a religious context. Chaplains, generally, they'll give you as much Jesus as you want, but not all of them are going to give you all the Jesus.
Not all believe in Jesus.
Because they don't all believe in Jesus, right? So chaplains are a lucky privilege that you guys as Marines have, and to please use them because they're a tremendous resource. We talked yesterday about confidentiality, chaps, and that they can ask you absolutely anything or tell you anything, and that stays with you. And I won't use your phrase. I'll let you give your own phrase. So, to you.
Okay. Gentlemen, good morning. Okay, so I'll be talking today about spiritual fitness. A lot of people, they miss this definition of it. In fact, I just heard someone right now, they define spiritual fitness as being right with God. What do you think about that? Is that how we define spiritual fitness?
I mean, as I said, believing or being true to something that you believe is bigger than yourself.
That's more accurate than what most people, how they define it. So here's spiritual fitness. Even the boss defines his first principles or his basics. President of the basics, he believes in being physically fit, mentally tough, emotionally resilient, and spiritually grounded. Those are his 4 things. But everybody is all over the board on how they define spiritual fitness. So let me just tell you how the Navy defines it, because that's all that matters. Okay. In the Navy definition of spiritual fitness, it doesn't mention God at all. It doesn't mention Jesus. Doesn't mention Allah. Doesn't mention Mary, Jesus, Joseph, whatever. Now, if you ask me personally, I believe that Jesus Christ is the Savior of the world, that he lived a perfect life, that he died and was buried for 3 days in a tomb and rose again on the 3rd day, and if you believe in him, you'll have eternal life. That's what I believe personally. That's what the Navy pays me to believe. I'm endorsed by the Coalition of Spirit-Filled Churches, so I can only represent that. If you get a Buddhist chaplain, he or she can only represent the Buddhist faith. If you get a Muslim imam chaplain, they can only represent that. Because why? Because we role model religious freedom. So we would never tell a Jewish rabbi, hey, you can do the prayer, but just don't say shalom or don't say Elohim, don't say any of that stuff. Can't censor them. You can't tell a Buddhist chaplain, hey, I want you to do this, you can do this prayer, but don't pray how your faith would tell you to pray, just pray how like a generic. You can't do that. And so for me as well, there's this big debate like, well, you could do this thing, but you just can't pray in Jesus' name. No, that's exactly the opposite of what we want. We want to role model the religious freedom that you have. So we were that the DOD was thinking, like, how do we define spiritual fitness then? Because it's all over the map. Well, here's how they define it. And you can Google this. Look up the Navy Spiritual Fitness Guide. Okay? The Navy Spiritual Fitness Guide. It says this. Spirituality may be used in a general sense to refer to that which gives meaning and purpose in life. As Asran said, you nailed it. Or to the term may be used more specifically to refer to the practice of a philosophy, a religion, or a way of living. So it could be any of those things. So when we use the term spiritual fitness, let's not be afraid to use it. We're going into summer, and there's all kinds of safety rules. All the weekend briefs, what do you hear? Don't drink and drive. You hear all these things. Well, don't do anything stupid. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. Or don't be that guy. What do you think about those statements?
Generic.
Yeah, they're so generic. They're so cheap to me. Don't do anything stupid is I don't know, that's so subjective. Me, if you say, hey, don't hurt yourself, like, that's what I do. I love to hurt myself. If I go to the gym and I don't leave hurting, I feel like I wasted my time. Like, I want to beat up my body. Like, my ears are jacked. I have an L5S1 collapsing, and I take pride in that. Like, I've had concussions. I've had all these. I love hurting myself. So we have to be specific in these briefs. And if we're going to be talking about spiritual fitness, we have to be specific in that. There's all these generic terms that we love to use, but they mean nothing. They mean nothing. You can gather a bunch of Marines together and say, hey, don't do anything stupid this weekend, okay? Or be spiritually grounded, be spiritually fit. And it means nothing to them. So my attempt in the next 15, 20 minutes is just to define what it is so we know what we mean. And I do that in the way of what I call the tree illustration. This is what Carissa wants me to talk about in all her UMAPIT classes. So I'm going to do this tree illustration right here. Oh, I'm also an artist, if you didn't notice. I'll make this trunk blue here. 1, 2, 3. I believe there are 7 roots down here. I wrote a book about this, but today I'll only talk about 4 because I want to portray this whole concept of spiritual fitness in the Navy with a twist with Chaplain Barank's flavor, okay? So you have here everything above ground is the physical, visible world. So these are all things that you can see, taste, touch, to hear with empirical data. Right? You can taste it, touch it, smell it, see it, observe it. It's all in this realm called the physical. What's the opposite of the physical world?
Spiritual.
Yes. Nailed it. Spiritual. And what's the opposite of visible? Easy day, right? Can I see it? Then it's in the physical. Is it invisible to me? Then I can't see it. This is the realm here that we operate, and when we live here, it manifests into things we can see. Hence my illustration. Fruits are always connected to roots. Everything we do, the way we behave, the things that Marines do that we call dumb, or whether drinking and driving, or they're preaching that right now all over base. But all they're doing is talking about symptoms, and no one's going to the heart of the issue. So here we go. This is also called the heart. Okay? The Greeks had a cool, let me just show you a cool, what I learned in seminary. I could write in Greek here. Okay? This is cardia. I'll transliterate it. K-A-R-D-I-A. Maybe know what cardia is? How about this? How about a cardiologist? Right? What's cardia? Cardia means heart. Cardia. Cardiologist is a doctor of the cardia. A cardiologist is a doctor of the heart. But when the Greeks used this word right here, cardia, it never referred to the physical blood pumping organ that's right about right here. It never referred to the physical blood pumping organ. It referred to the deepest part of the soul, which is the mind, the will, and the emotions. The mind, will, and emotions. So here's the term. I love this phrase. The heart of every issue is the issue of the heart. And if I'm going to be talking about the heart of every issue, that means I can't tell Marines don't do dumb things, don't drink and drive, don't sleep around. Well, Marines don't really preach that. They just tell people to use condoms and practice safe sex, so whatever that means. I think it's detrimental to your health, but that's another deal here. We are trying to tell people how to behave, and if we don't address what they're believing, then it's good for nothing. What we have to do in spiritual fitness is see that this is actually here, and then balance it out. How am I behaving? Oh my gosh, it's because it's what I'm believing. So let's just throw it up there right now. What do you think are some things that Marines struggle with? And sailors as well. And I'm writing it. I've kind of jokingly written a book about this. It's called the Grunts Exposed Behind Chaplain's Door, and it's all the shenanigans that I've experienced in the past over a dozen years. What are some things Marines deal with? They struggle with, whether it's embarrassing or whatever. Relationships. So thanks, Pastor Ron. What about relationships?
Infidelity.
Infidelity. There you go. So what does that mean? They're cheating. Like right now, there's, I don't know how many people are in this building, about 100, 200 receiving these briefs. There's a lot of people in this building. How many are cheating on their wives right now? Well, I would know because I can have a rough guesstimate, because if I start mentioning this, those guys go like this. And then they go internal and start thinking about it. That's a spiritual issue. That's shame and guilt. You can't see it yet, but it's connected down here into the spiritual world. Okay, so that's one fruit. What's another fruit? Let's list all the ones we're talking about in the other room here. DUI. What else? What are we struggling with? What are the top 6 destructive behaviors in the DoD? Suicide.
Drugs. Alcohol.
Suicide is actually number 1. SRBs, they call it. Drugs.
Suicide-related behaviors.
Yes, suicide-related behaviors. Drugs, that's called, we call it substance abuse, SA. Okay? Anybody ever been guilty of this? Domestic violence? I have. I mean, it's got physical in my relationships. My wife and I were sharing this testimony on Tuesday night at our community group. That my wife has a scar on her arm. That if I lived in base housing, I probably would have been arrested that night. But this stuff happens. I've been married for over 14 years. This stuff happens. And I'm not standing up here ever saying that I've got this all figured out and you should be. No, I'm saying I can relate to you because I have all this crap in my life. You ever thought about killing yourself? Can we be honest and vulnerable in here? Like, yes, I thought of that. It's not a big deal, but it's a big deal to not address it and to not look at what's going on down here. So the lie that almost everybody believes is that I'm the only one that struggles with this. It's sort of like being in junior high and guys are talking about their sexuality and exploring, and you see like the 7th grader and the 8th grader sort of like I don't do that. And then the college kid and the other kid's like, the other guy's like, come on, man, that's normal. And then you get to become an old man and you walk around 24-hour fitness with just totally naked. Like those guys, I don't know why they just walk around like this. It's right? Yeah. Chris, you're laughing because it's true. Junior high, everybody takes a shower like this. High school, maybe they're like this. And then you're old man. This guy was like tying his shoes next to me like this as I'm getting ready on the bench at 24-hour fitness. Totally weird. But here, with your spiritually fit, then these things, you don't feel a need to hide any of this stuff. Your lifestyle becomes, when you're spiritually fit, you're like, yeah, man, I'm really struggling with this. You know, I'm gonna sit down with my counselor or whatever, and my counselor, he or she is helping me uproot these things. What are some other fruits here? This is totally practical. This message right here, way better than saying don't do anything stupid this weekend. I'm gonna teach you how to get rid of these things. DUI, sexual assault, suicide-related behaviors, substance abuse, drug abuse, domestic violence.
Financial problems.
Sure, financial problems. That's a good one. You know what I used to do for fun? I used to go to the ATM right here at San Mateo. And I don't know why Marines do this, but they throw their little balance on the floor. And I used to pick these things up, and I'd go, $15? Who's got $15 in their bank account? That's the guy, it's the 1st and the 15th. I'm going to go blow my money in the, used to call it package store, right? I'm going to use all my money on booze for the weekend. Why? What's the real issue behind that? And the real issue behind this?
Depression.
Sure, and depression, with the professionals, we'll define depression for us as sort of this anger that's trapped inside, like a beach ball I'm trying to keep down. I'm depressing this thing. I'm really angry. Okay, so let me just give you the answers to all the test here. I believe there are 4 things that we believe or worship that will manifest into all this junk. You ready for it? I'm going to use spiritual language, so bear with me here. The worship of one of 4 things. So this word worship, right? It's not really like bowing down to an idol, but it kind of is. But when I worship something, I believe I need it. And if I don't have it, then I start going crazy and I start doing these things. So the worship of, I'll put the first one in here, control. The worship of control leads to all kinds of crap here. All kinds of junk in our life. The worship of power. You'll see Crystal will show you the power and control wheel. This is the same thing, just packaged in a different way. When a person worships power, they will rape another person. Because in rape, the subject matter experts will tell us, rape is not about sex, it's about power and control. It's all about that. It's this weird dynamic of like, wow, they worship power so much they would do that to another human being. When dogs do this to each other too, it's not about sex. When dogs hump each other, what is it about? They're establishing their dominance. Says subject matter expert Cesar Millan. I made that up. He probably does say that. But okay, the power control, and then here you go. How about this? Is anybody like me and you really care about what other people think about you? Well, I do. I'm gonna put that up there. So if I want those guys to like me, and they said they're gonna like me if I drink, then you know how I'm gonna spend my money this weekend? I'm just gonna blow it all on alcohol. I'm gonna buy everybody alcohol. And then I'm gonna get man, I didn't plan for a DUI, but I got one. Shoot, man, I didn't plan to beat my wife at the party, but I did because she was looking at another guy. And then all this stuff added up, and gosh, I just feel like killing myself. You see how it works now? All because it stemmed from this me worshiping the what other people think about me. And if I care too much, then I'm gonna dress a certain way for them. I'm gonna spend my money for them. What's that saying in the movie Fight Club? We spend money that we don't have to buy things we don't need, to impress people that we don't even like. Right? It all goes down to this approval. You could also call these little gods. Like the God of approval, if I worship that God, it'll lead to this stuff. If I worship power, it'll lead to, where is it? Sexual assault right there. If I am a control freak, which I can be sometimes, all that means is I'm worshiping this thing, then it'll lead to all kinds of things. I'll be a horrible boss, I'll be a horrible husband, I'll be a horrible dad, I'll be a horrible sailor or Marine if I worship this control thing. And when I go here, my best friend in San Clemente is a guy named Pastor Jared. And RP3 has met Pastor Jared, right? The guy with the beard, that he's a jiu-jitsu practitioner, right? He's in my face. And just full disclosure here, he goes, "What did you say to your RP?" He's like, "You're a," and I'll just keep it PG here, but he goes, "You're a jerk, dude." And I was like, "What?" He goes, "Don't talk to people like that. You lead them like this." And what Jared is helping me do, he's just like, "Dude, you're worshiping that." And Ryan, you say these things and you talk a certain way because you're really trying to do this. And if you always have a feeling you want to be right, get the last word in, well, that's really the worship. That's really the idol of power. Any parents in here? This is an easy one. It's an easy one to pull rank as a parent and be like, "I'm right, you're wrong. Shut up, kid." And if it could be true, but if this is what's going on, it's got to go. It's got to go. You got to get rid of that. Control, power, approval, and then here's one, comfort. Okay, what does it look like when someone worships comfort? Well, they don't do anything that's uncomfortable. When a person worships comfort, then they go like, I'm not going to talk to a counselor. That's embarrassing. When they worship comfort, they go in a group setting and then they go, I'm not going to share because I might be the only one. But we live in a hashtag Me Too world. We live in a Me Too world. I promise you, if your lifestyle is such that you start not wearing your feelings on your sleeve, like, hey, Sasser, what's going on? Like, hey, man, here's what I did last night. Like, if we don't have a relationship, I'm not going to go there. But if I'm working towards relationship, which you know, having driven around all of ITX together, it's cool. We build those relationships, and I'm always headed this way. Then I can expose these things, and then expose these things, and then they start to disappear in my life. I don't want to live a comfortable life. I want to live a life where I'm always challenged. I'm always being. I just don't want to live a comfortable life. You know what I'm saying? Like the Marines and sailors shouldn't do this as well. If like you're comfortable where you're at, that's wrong. It should be this learning organization, as Colonel Graham calls it, learning organization. Always challenging myself. I encourage all my guys. Like, hey, I will allot you an hour a day to do school. It has to be real legit school. We're actually working towards a degree. It might suck. It might be uncomfortable, but it's what's needed. Okay. Question: how do you kill a root? Any gardeners in here? How do you kill a root? There's a certain way.
There's a plan. You can either poison it or you can pull the whole thing out.
Yes. But what happens if I get a lawnmower and I just mow right over the weeds? What happens the next day?
Grows back.
That stuff grows back. Have you heard of crabgrass? That stuff is out of control. If I mow over the weeds, i.e., I'm just going to tell you, hey, stop doing this. Stop being an idiot. Don't be that guy. For the record, and I'm going to put this online too, but I don't care. I hate that poster, the don't be that guy. It doesn't address the heart of the issue. The heart of every issue is the issue of the heart. So we have to ask people, what's motivating you to get drunk? What's behind? Tell me the story behind you blowing all your money. We have to be good listeners and say, what's going on there? And if you listen good enough, people will start to tell you what they're believing, and then we can help them point it out. Not do all the work for them, but I'll never forget my friend Dan told me one time, I explained how frustrated I was with my wife. Because I changed diapers better. That's what I believed, right? Why would anybody do it like that? And my friend Dan, we're washing dishes together because I'm trying to be a good husband. And he whispers in my ear, he goes, you think you're better than Jeanette, don't you? And I was like, no, what are you talking about? He said, you think you're better than her. Your heart's so full of pride, man. And I'm like, you're right, man. It said worship of power. I'm right, you're wrong. You're dumb, I'm not. And if you live in a world where everybody's an idiot, can anybody relate to that? That's a time to pause and go, you know what? This is probably about me. Holy cow. Everybody's not an idiot. Or maybe they are doing some dumb things, but if I think I'm better than them, it now has become an idol and I need to kill it. So we talked about poisoning it or pulling it out. What do we want to do? We just want to pull it out. Let's not mess with it. Because if I poison it, I always have to wonder if it's still down there. And let me use a warfare illustration. If I drop a carpet bomb, if I drop a JDAM somewhere, then I'm always just wondering if there's enemy left. But if I can use all my intel and ID and use snipers and go like, boom, there's 5 guys there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All gone. Then it removes all doubt. It removes all doubt. In spiritual fitness, we don't want to poison roots. We don't want to drop a bomb and just have this generic. We want to specifically say, this is what I'm believing. This is what I'm believing. And in doing that, if you do that in front of people, it loses its power. Even, you know, Terry Crews is? Terry Crews? White chicks, he's always dancing and flexing his pecs. He has a video, you can YouTube this later, but it's called My Dirty Little Secret. Remember that? When he posted this thing, it went viral. He goes, hey, what's up, Facebook? I've been gone for a long time, but you know what? I had a secret, but secrets only have power when they're secrets, so I'm exposing this to the whole world. Hey, Facebook, I had a porn addiction problem. And he went to rehab, and his wife, Rebecca, she left him. And he went into porn rehab. He disappeared. He went off the grid for a while, and he was working through these issues. And I love what Terry Crews says in there. He goes, these secrets have power when they're hidden, but I'm exposing it to the world. I don't have any more secrets. And the moment Terry Crews exposed his junk for the world to see on Facebook, this lost its power, approval. His comfort definitely died that day. His worship of power died that day, and his trying to control everything, it all died. And then guess what else died when he exposed himself? His porn addiction. And someone in the crowd is always thinking, well, what's wrong with porn? That's a whole nother topic. But for him, it created shame and guilt. And if it creates shame and guilt in your heart, right here, then it needs to go. It needs to go. Yesterday I did something very shameful, and I have still yet to confess it to my wife. I went to jiu-jitsu twice yesterday, and I'm feeling a lot of shame and guilt over that. Now, is that against the law, or was it criminal? No, but the shame and guilt that's in my heart that lingers will turn into something if I don't confess that tonight. I'm saying that before you and in front on the internet so that you can talk to me tomorrow and say, hey, chaps, did you clear that up with your wife? Yes. You see what I'm saying? It could be I cheated on my wife, but it's still the same shame and guilt. It could be my wife bought a compact on Amazon one time, and it was like $3, and she had so much shame and guilt. She didn't want to tell me. And I'm thinking, like, who cares? That's $3. But the shame and guilt was real. Her worship of comfort was so real, and now can turn into I'm yelling at kids for spilling milk. See that? So anytime we worship these things, that thing has to come out. I do it with Pastor Jared. I have several friends that are on speed dial because I don't want any of these things. This is spiritual fitness. It's not in the Navy. It's not, hey, believe in Jesus and you'll have eternal life. That's my personal belief. But really, this is what we're getting at, is this practice of, we put it in my terms now, confession and repentance in the midst of community. Every single recovery program, AA, Celebrate Recovery, all these 12-step programs are based off of this model. I'm going to expose what I'm believing, and then this stuff will go away. And then when this stuff comes back, if I have a relapse or a little slip and I start drinking again when I'm not supposed to be, I go right back into confession and repentance in the midst of my little community. When we define spiritual fitness in the Navy, it's a philosophy, a religion, or a way of living. It's your community of practice. So if you don't have people who know you, you're not spiritually fit. If there isn't at least one person in the world who knows your deepest, darkest secret, you're walking around spiritually unfit. And so we need this. I have several people up here because I've been doing this for a while now. I can jump into this. I have one good friend who is a commanding officer of a SEAL team. Does this, right? No more facades. No more. I have one of my best friends in the Marine Corps was a commanding officer of a Raider battalion. He's a MARSOC guy. He goes, I love this stuff now. I love confessing my sins. It's fun. He told me it's fun. And it is fun to live free. So I'm challenging every safety brief, every sergeant major, to go a little bit deeper than don't do anything dumb. What I'm saying is check your heart. Check your heart. And that's what it means to be spiritually fit. I could teach on this for 5 more hours, but I'm going to end right there and see, do you have any questions?
Chaplain, good morning.
Yes.
How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm excellent.
Great. Sorry I jumped in here
Yes.
midstream. Again, because I'm coming in midway through it, when I look at this sort of a model, one of the things that's been kind of interesting from a literary perspective is you'll look at characters and the way characters have developed. And they have these two lies, the lies they tell other people and the lies they tell themselves.
Yes.
And it's that lie that they tell themselves where they will create all sorts of consternation or frustration with their situation.
Yes.
And so they might have one of those 4 things that they are worshiping, but they will
Yes.
masquerade that as something else, right? What have you seen in that kind of respect, and what other things can they like try to convince themselves, like, I'm doing this for this reason, but it's really for this reason?
Right. Can you give a more concrete example? Something, because
So-
this happens all the time.
Yeah, so you'll see it in movies where you've got like the big bad guy, right? Who
Right.
thinks he wants to save the world, right? Like Thanos, right? He wants to save the universe by eliminating half the population to create population control so everyone else can live more comfortably, right? So
Right.
he's actually looking for comfort and kind of control,
Yes.
right? But he's telling himself it's to save everyone.
Yes. Okay. So that is called a blind spot. When I believe I'm doing something and I can't see that it's really wrong or it's really evil or wicked or a lie, I'm going to need an A driver. I'm going to need someone else coming from another angle saying, hey man, that's real. Someone that I trust, that I'll let them in. If not, I just walk around with a bunch of blind spots and people will go like, hey man, this is true about you. And you're like, no, it's not. So we need someone like if I had a booger hanging out of my nose and you didn't love me enough to tell me, my wife would say, come here. Pull it out of my nose. That's love. But if you don't love someone, you just let them walk around with a booger hanging out of their nose. Like I've done that before. Like I had a donut right here. Like I was talking to this lady for like 30 minutes, and then I walked to my buddy Andy Miller, and he's like, "Bro, look at you, dude. You're a mess. Wipe off that donut off your face." I was like, "Well, she doesn't obviously love me." So we need people in our lives to point these things out. Isolation is not the worst thing we do, but it's how we do the worst thing. So if a Marine is walking around and he has nobody to talk to or nobody that knows him, he'll just have blind spots. If the loneliest person in the command, I say this all the time to them, who's the loneliest person in the command? Person at the top. The sergeant major, the CO, the XO, they don't have peers. So they can get very lonely at the top, and then they can get isolated, and then they can do things with blind spots because everybody's afraid to show them or tell them. I mean, we have DOC survey, we have those things, but what they need to do is find other counterparts, peers, who can, hey, this is what I'm doing, tell me. Like my buddy Jared, he'll be like, dude, you're a jerk. Don't do that. But if I isolate myself, I'll never see these lies, I'll never see them as lies, I'll never see my blind spots. We need community. If anything, if 2020 taught us anything, it's we need other people. We need physical touch. We need to connect with people. This whole thing about social distancing, I think, was so dangerous. Physical distancing, I get that. But social, not talking to people, that's weird. We are relational beings. We are supposed to connect. We're supposed to confess and repent in the midst of communities. We're not supposed to be isolated. But excellent question. Well, this concludes my brief. I'll be hanging out later on after if you have any questions. Thank you, gentlemen. And Carissa, over to you.